You guys have heard of slander. Yes, of course. You've heard of slander. And you've heard of you being somebody, if you say something that isn't true about me, if you defame me, I'll sue you. I'll sue you for slander. You've heard that as an expression. Possibly you've said it to somebody. Possibly you've had it said to you. You have never actually sued somebody for defamation. You've never actually been sued for defamation. As a matter of fact, if you're sitting there to think about it, you don't know of anybody that has. You've heard it. You feel that it's a thing. But you couldn't actually say, well, you know what? My neighbor did that 5 years ago. My classmate's mom. No, you don't actually have an example. And do you want to know where it's worse? The worst slander, the biggest lies that you'll ever hear, and I mean lies, where somebody is intending to do damage to somebody by stating things that they know are not true. The biggest lies are amongst politicians against opponents. Did you know there's a law where your political opponent, it's official, through the Secretary of State, you're both on the ballot. Once you get to that point, you are not capable of committing slander against your opponent. Did you know that? You're completely protected. So, could we at least agree, regardless of what the laws might say, that all is fair in love and war? Can we do that to an extent? It just seems to me, if you sue somebody, you threaten to sue somebody, you're going to follow through, you're doing multiple states, you get to be a federal suit, you've also removed yourself by one. I mean, that part is very relevant. Logan is the one who threatened Dillon openly, publicly, sent a cease and desist, but he was doing it on behalf of a gal. So now it is a question. It's like, okay, wait a minute. Is this between Dillon and a gal, or is this between Dillon and Logan brought in a third party? It does start to get a little bit different. In what point are you attempting to defend and show that you have bravado? Right? If you're willing to protect a girl, is there any way to prove that stronger than fighting the person who questioned her honor? And I'm just wondering, if this fight doesn't go through, whose fault do you guys think that is?
I like Logan, and I know Dillon. I think you signed the deal with the devil when you're fighting Dillon Danis. Dillon Danis
you have to
is
expect
a
it.
Savage. Now, do you know he's going to go that hard on Nina Agdal?
Wild.
No, but it's the fight game.
Yeah.
I think you just let, what is I saw the video where she's like, she likes sex. I don't know how he got that, probably illegally. But, you know, he's like photoshopping her on pictures, so who fucking cares to a degree? But that's Dillon Dan. I just ignore it. That's what I would do. I mean, it's harder said because it's not Logan.
Really? Yeah.
It's like I'm sure,
Yeah,
like if someone's going after my girlfriend like that, it would be hell on earth for me.
Yeah.
I don't think Logan he's just managing his fiance, which he should and has to, but it is the fight game. The fight game's like a wild world where it's like the wild, wild west.
So you with Logan, you would ignore all the comments?
I would do like the NDA shit and things like that, or suing or whatever. Like Nina sued him. It's part of the fight game. Just be like, I'm gonna beat the fuck out of you.
That's the thing.
I still don't think that fight's gonna happen. But
so that's the tricky thing. It's like, and is it weirdly, do the lawsuits give Dillon a way out?
I mean, the guy hasn't fought in like 10 years, but
yeah,
and he didn't look great. And I don't know.
It is interesting. I guess they're suing because one of the pictures or videos was private.
Well, that's the one I was talking about where Nina.
Oh, it was her talking. I thought she just put that on Instagram or Snapchat.
No, I think she said that must have been like taken deep from her archives.
But why would she record into her phone?
Yeah, but
speaking publicly. Well, maybe she was like,
it could have been sent to somebody.
Got you.
Like
her friends. It's a group chat.
Yeah.
Something like that. Okay, so that's a private thing. Okay, so I get that. That being said, if he wasn't posting every single day, I don't think that there's a lawsuit out there. I think I think they're focusing on that specific video, but it's not about that video. It's about the onslaught of images that's painting her. In this
but I mean, again, to me, they're not. I mean, I saw Logan say this at one point. He's like, yeah, she had boyfriends before me.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't seen anything too fucking great. She had boyfriends. Who fucking cares?
Yeah. She's a beautiful woman who's dated successful dudes.
Once Nina shows that she's upset by it, listen, Danis will go in. There's nothing to stop him.
Yeah.
So anytime you acknowledge, engage, do more, he just ramps it up. It's the fight game.
I asked Dillon about it, and he's like, any image that's being shared is public. It's
For the
either
most
been
part, I
shared
think
by
he's
her
right.
or that. She's like, now he's creating the narrative behind it.
Correct.
And then we could argue how bad it is to bully this girl, which is bad. She's not involved, right? It is the fight game, but I think there's also an ickiness we all feel. We're like,
yeah, it's family.
Yeah, it's
Leave
just
family
like,
out.
yeah, like what's going on here? I wouldn't want anybody talking about my wife like that. Absolutely. But I'm trying to think. Like,
but I do think, not that Logan would have expected this.
But he had to expect
shit. It's not remotely surprising that Dillon would go here.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been trolling nonstop.
So what
forever.
happens if he doesn't show up to the fight?
I think he'll continue with the trolling, probably.
What happens if he wins?
We're all in trouble.
Yeah.
It'll be never ending. I don't think he will, but it'll be never ending.
Are you gonna go?
No. I've lost my interest in, to Dillon's, if you want to say credit, he has made it interesting because you actually, there's real fucking bad blood.
Yeah.
But I've kind of lost my interest on the celebrity boxing shit.
You're over it?
Yeah, a little bit.
I thought that would be a perfect lane for Barstool. Like if you guys
it's
put
interesting.
They have it. You guys have been doing.
We do but not name. We do like no names.
Yeah, but celebrity ones.
Yeah. What the Jake Paul Fury fight was my last kind of, because I didn't know how good Jake was. I was very curious. And then when he fought Fury, I think I came to the conclusion, like, he beat the shit out of me, but he's certainly not an elite boxer. And that kind of took the bloom off the rose for me a little bit.
And Jake Paul said, I don't roll with Tate. I'd love to knock his ass out. He said something like that. Yeah. But then he said, but what I do support is, free speech. But then his brother said something else. His brother said, the shit that Andrew Tate says will have a ripple effect much more dangerous than you can imagine, because his narrative is truly hateful. His rhetoric has extreme negative energy in it, and it will affect impressionable young people that won't show for years from now, and it's dangerous. Now, this is what he said,
Is this
right?
Logan Paul you're saying?
But I want to say this before you comment on it. And then Junior supported you, Tucker supported you. I think the guys that like debate and comedians, people who appreciate humor, can understand that some of the stuff you're saying is funny as hell. You could be a comedian if you wanted to, but a person has to really pay attention to the comedy. But some can run with it, some cannot run with it. Yeah. When you hear the people that support and don't support you, how do you process that?
So first things first, I want to make it very, very clear that Logan Paul is absolutely and utterly a tool of the Matrix. He's a bought and sold individual with no soul. He doesn't stand up for anything, and he doesn't mean anything he says. He gets pieces of paper from Susan or whoever else telling him what he's allowed to say on his channel to retain it.
You believe that?
100%. Not only do I believe it, he's proved it himself. He will flip-flop on any issue. He can be bought and sold. The dude's a bitch. Logan Paul is a bitch, and I will say that here publicly. If anyone wants, I'll fight him for free. The guy's an idiot.
No money needed to fight Logan Paul.
Logan Paul doesn't believe in any of the things he says. Logan Paul is a man, if you ever were unfortunate enough to consume his content, I get sent clips of it all the time by people mocking him. As soon as something comes out, whether it's Harry Styles wearing a dress, whether it's Lil Nas twerking on the devil, whether it's this, he just sits there and goes, yeah, this is great. Yeah, this is great. He is a talking piece. He is the mouthpiece for the agenda. The people have come along, people who are trying to force a narrative, and they said, look, we need to have some degree of control over the exact demographic that Tate has control over. We're going to use Logan Paul and attempt to use him. And he sits there and just purports the bullshit points of view that the whole Hollywood establishment want him to purport. He doesn't believe in the things he said. He's told what to say. And because he was canceled before and it emotionally destroyed him, he sat on camera crying his eyes out like a little girl instead of being a man about it. He is so fearful of the mob and so scared of being canceled again that he's going to sit there and say anything he's told. He doesn't believe that shit. Before I was canceled, him and his boyfriend Mike did endless videos supporting me, laughing about me, saying how funny I was, tagging me on Instagram, inviting me places, etc. The second I'm canceled, they flip reverse it and shit themselves because they don't want to get canceled too. They are children. That's all they are. So Logan Paul's a bitch. That's the first thing about Logan Paul. And what's actually been interesting about this whole cancellation thing is it hasn't negatively affected me in any serious way because I've been saying on podcasts for years, I know a cancellation is coming. I knew it was coming. I knew that as I got more popular and more powerful to a degree that it was going to come. But what it has done is it has awoken the world, to anyone who's perspicacious enough to pay attention, to learn which individuals out here in the social media space actually have character and believe what they say, and which are completely bought and sold and are tools to the matrix. The people who have decided to stand up for me and say, no, this is bullshit, are people who have, to some degree, credibility. You know, this is people who say what they truly believe. But the people who were totally a fan and then post-cancellation shit themselves in 180 and to get a new piece of paper to talk from, that should tell the public out there exactly who's controlled and whether these people have a genuine narrative that they're trying to report on the world. And it's interesting. Logan's one of them, and there's a few others. But I'm glad it happened just for that alone, because it's actually very clear. If you go to Logan Paul's last podcast where he's discussing me, all of his fans, and we'll talk about fans and viewers in a minute because I think they're very different things. All of his fans, which he has none of, all of his viewers are sitting there insulting him, saying, bro, you're a fucking bitch. Like everyone, all of his own watchers are calling him names because it's so transparent and so obvious what he's doing.
Fans versus viewers.
Fans versus viewers, very different things. So he doesn't have any fans. He has viewers. And Susan and the Matrix and the people in charge of social media companies are like, okay, we've set our media machine. Let me ask you guys questions as professionals. Let's assume, as professionals, let's assume what I'm saying is correct. Let's assume that the social media companies, when they banned me, set their media machine to all release thousands of news articles at the same time, trying to convince the world I'm an evil man. If they had that degree of power and influence, which I think we can all probably agree they do, don't you think they'd take their number one talking piece to the demographic, which is my fan, and give him a piece of paper and tell him what to say? Does that all make sense? Does that make sense to say, well, we told all the news to say Tate's bad, and all of his fans are 18 to 25-year-old men. Who do we have on YouTube who obeys us like a little cuck who speaks to 18 to 25-year-old men? Logan Paul. Okay, Logan, here's your piece of paper. Do you want to get canceled again, Logan? No, you don't want to get canceled, do you? No, Mom.
You're saying a call like that was made?
100%. The dude's a bitch. He 180'd from a super fan to talking about my rhetoric being dangerous
but
in 24 hours.
There's a difference between you saying who you think he is versus you making the speculation that he got called by somebody to say, here's a narrative we want you to take, or else we'll silence you.
Well, Logan is not capable of independent thought. So if someone didn't give him the narrative, he didn't think it up himself. The dude's an empty vessel. He says what he is told to say. Somebody, somewhere, told Logan what to say and what stance to take. We can argue whether it was a social media company, whether it was his manager who was fearful, whether whatever. But somebody sat with Logan and said, look, Tate's getting a lot of smoke. You were cool with him. Your boyfriend Mike was cool with him. He's getting a lot of smoke right now. You're going to bitch out. And he sat there and said, yes, sir. Yes, I will. Because he has no character or no integrity. If it was all the other way around, let's imagine he was getting canceled, and I truly believed it was unfair, I'd sit there on my own platform and say, this is bullshit, because I'm not bought, sold, and owned. He's an owned individual. So he's always going to say what he is told to say. He's always going to sit on podcasts, speaking to the youth, promoting Harry Styles wearing a dress, saying that it's great that Lil Nas twerks on the devil in real time for our children to digest, and then say, I'm dangerous to the youth, because that's what he's been told to say. Logan Paul has absolutely no capability for independent thought. And he has no character as a man. That's who Logan Paul is.
Yes, Logan Paul is an idiot to begin with.
Yes.
And so is this guy, Dillon Danis. So they're set to do this fight in October, okay? There's this celebrity boxing stuff that's been going on. To be clear, it's kind of a new trend. Fine. I don't care where you line up on that. But Dillon Danis has been trolling this guy, Logan Paul's fiance. Now, here's the thing. Her name is Nina Agdal. This has been going back and forth, and I'm curious as to where you guys line up. If people think, oh, you know, you're bringing someone's family, I guess fiance, not technically family, into it. But it says more about modern relationships and dating. If you have children right now, they should block their ears. And not because of something that's being said about her, but what she says about herself. So 3, 2, it's not a trigger warning. It's just an age-appropriate warning because she speaks like a dirty pirate whore.
I know where I line up, right behind
Yeah, I knew exactly where Nick was
Good night, everybody.
Here's some videos that were shared on Twitter from this woman, the fiance, and it's become a big topic.
Only thing better than dessert is sex.
This would make me eggs and bacon, a lot of bacon and sausage. And
Oh,
then
goodness.
we would go to the
She meant wiener when she said
and then
sausage
he
there.
would cook me dinner again, like a good steak with a good sauce and some potatoes, maybe
I'm
some
going to give you a
green
good sauce,
beans.
you dare.
And then after
I think that's the
that,
implication.
you know what happens.
You talk about your daddy issues?
Hello.
I don't really think penises are that pretty, so I prefer you to hide it inside casually.
I sucked a d in a football stadium full of people once.
Who hasn't?
Are there any foods that make either of you gag?
My gag
at the reaction
reflex
here.
is pretty strong.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have to say, it'll take a lot.
Okay.
So look, this is one of those things where now Dillon Danis has come in and he's been bringing up, he's fighting this guy Logan Paul, and he's brought up the fact that she's been with pretty much every man, since the history of the. Yeah, going back to Australopithecus.
Seriously.
And people are saying, hey, this is off limits. Well, let me ask you again, comment below. Do you think it's off limits when she has put herself out there as a public figure, and her calling card has been, I'm a model who has sex with lots of guys? Here is kind of the twist. Is this same person, Agdal, she withheld sex, and I don't know if it's for moral reasons, from this guy Logan Paul for an extended period of time, and that's where kind of the ribbing seems to come in. But this is one of those issues where it just doesn't really make sense, and clearly she's with Logan Paul because she wants to be famous. I think people need to have an accurate assessment of what the relationship is. Like when you see a guy who's 85, he's shriveled up. I was like what was his name? Sterling? Was it Donald Sterling? Sterling, the guy who got in trouble with his broad, who he said something racist. The Clippers.
Oh, the Clippers.
Was it Donald Sterling? Donald Sterling. He was like,
Yeah.
You can do whatever, just don't upload it on social media. And then she released that recording. Like, she's not with you because you're a Dapper Dan. It's pretty obvious. So here she is now talking with Logan Paul about not sleeping with him.
You not having sex with me for the duration of time that you did was very important.
You thought something was wrong with me.
I'll be honest, I thought I did.
You talked to Mike about it.
I said this girl's perfect as far as I can tell. There's one unexplored venture, and I have reason to believe that there's probably something wrong with it, because if it's too good to be true, it probably is.
Wait, it's too good to be true to be with a woman who slept with everyone but yourself? That's living the dream. How is that too good to be true?
Well, if she's banging like DiCaprio and stuff, she's not a pig.
Well,
so
she was until she hit 21. Then he kicked her to the curb.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. So I'm just saying.
This is professional wrestling, but in boxing. That's all it is.
Yes, it is. She's
Right.
I'm going to talk about his wife because she's a whore. You call my wife a whore? How dare you?
Well, it's not his wife, it's his fiance, and she's not a whore with him.
Is she withholding because of the fight? You know how they do that?
Yeah, I don't think she's. I don't
like
think she's
the
good as
Raging Bull?
bird. I don't wanna. I'll weaken your legs, Logan.
Yeah, that's
This snatch weakens legs.
what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You want to be a tiger?
I thought that's where they were going to go with that.
No, I don't think so. I don't think he's that thoughtful. Look, everyone has their preferences, and we can't fully, we can't judge.
Whores running around doing their little behind shake for the menfolk.
I kind of like her idea.
But this is one of those things where, look, this goes back to the sexual empowerment of women, where women were told that they were just as sexually predatory as men. It's just not true. That's not accurate. And now women are confused in a lot of ways. And by the way, men aren't necessarily happy. This is not new. Men don't want to marry a woman who sleeps with everybody. Sure, they like breasts. Sure, they like naked ladies, but that doesn't mean that you mean anything to them. And I get it. People think it's going a little too far with Dillon, and he's, a scumbag, but it's a scumbag attacking a scumbag over a woman being a floozy.
Should I know this Dillon guy? Is he famous?
He won, I think he won Worlds at Jiu-Jitsu once and then kind of disappeared. He's really, really good at remaining relevant while doing nothing.
Oh, so I'll see him on Celebrity Chef next week?
Yes, exactly.
But he wasn't being mean about it. He was just I liked how he did it. He put a clip of her saying dirty stuff, and he just put interesting.
Yeah. Well, then he put up all of these pictures with her and like the entire, Raiders offensive line or whatever it is that she's done.
I was up all night.
But I will say this, like you see a lot of guys do, and this is one thing where guys get it confused. You'll get the guys who will say like, oh, they're traditional males, are sort of in the manosphere, but then they go, well, it's really hard to find a good woman these days who's traditional, but then they root around looking for women like that. What do you expect when you're finding someone who's posting their breasts on Instagram? Like they'll say these things, but then they put themselves in a box where they can only find these women. This is not going to work for relationships. This is not going to be a good future here for people in the United States. Women aren't happy, men aren't happy, and you know what? It starts with maybe being a respectable man and not being, a lying whore.
Yeah. The feminists ruined it.
Yeah. To be clear, I don't know if she's a liar.
It's great theater.
Yeah. It is, but it is something like this is an example, think about this, for young women where it's like, I mean, where else did he go? Kamala Harris, right? She's the most powerful woman, I guess, really.
Liar whore, and you know it.
She became famous by sleeping with anyone who could give her a job.
Well, isn't that the trend of our great cut? Think of every TV show. How many shows? What's Kardashians? Didn't that kick off with a naked video?
Yeah,
that's the new Hey,
that's the new pilot.
You make
go
it
out
sound.
and show a sex tape, and we'll get
Yeah,
you.
that's equivalent to writing the
everything.
script.
Yeah, exactly.
He has a spec script.
Yeah,
He's blowing some
Yeah.
famous guy at La Quinta Inn.
Here's the show idea. We'll buy it. This is brilliant.
Play the balls?
Campaign.
I have a development deal from Warner Brothers. Really, it looks like a webcam and a ring light. I don't think that's
Exactly.
it's
Sold.
experimental.